Happy Saturday, my witchlets. I am getting ready to go to a friend's house for game day, and I promised to make some food to bring along. So we're going to go over how to make a shepherd's pie with a rutabaga topping instead of potatoes. If you go to my blog, kwos.food.blog, you can find an entire article on there about the better substitutions for potatoes, such as rutabaga or cauliflower or turnips or something along those lines. So my oven's ready. Let's go ahead and get started with this. We're going to make a large shepherd's pie, so we're going to use 2 pounds of ground lamb and just pretty much double my entire recipe. I got this recipe from the website A Calculated Whisk. I just love that name. So naturally I went with that particular website. So it's a great recipe. It's fantastic. I've made this one before in a normal sized batch, and the food is very, very good. I applaud the person who put this together over at a Calculated Whisk. So I'm going to go ahead and reframe things, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what we're going to do. Okay, I'm back and we're all prepared and such. So we're going to start with a 1/4 teaspoon of a fat of your choice. I'm using ghee, which is clarified butter. I haven't used it for a while. I do enjoy it. It gives a nice flavor to your food without adding extra fat like butter would add. So we're going to do that, and we're going to let that melt in our saucepan. And this isn't a saucepan, it's a frying pan. I know words. Okay, so while that's melting, what we're going to do is we're going to brown up some onions. It's going to take about 10 minutes, so obviously I'm not going to show you the entire process of browning onions. But we're going to brown some onions, we're going to add some garlic, and because you know how I measure with my heart, and then we're going to add our lamb, and we're going to cook our lamb until it's no longer pink, and then we will go from there. Now this recipe actually calls for carrots that you chop yourself, and I said no thanks. So I'm going to use frozen peas and carrots, and those get added right before we put the rutabaga on top and stick it in the oven to bake. So you're going to need about I'd say 2 to 4 cups worth of frozen peas and carrots, and we'll, you know, just kind of have to eyeball it because you want a good meat to veggie ratio. So we have our onions here, and we're just going to let these brown up. You don't have to stir it constantly. You just need to make sure they're not burning. The flame is medium-high, and yeah. So I'm going to let this do its thing for the next 10 minutes or so, and then I will be back, and we will add our garlic and our lamb and go from there. And if you're wondering what happened to my finger, it was a rutabaga peeling accident again. I really hate peelers, just saying. But I also discovered that it's really difficult to apply a yarrow poultice when you only have one hand to mix said poultice and don't have any muslin strips to wrap around it. So Band-Aid it is. We'll talk about that later. Not necessarily today, but later. Alright, so our onions are browned, and now we're going to add some garlic. The recipe says 2 cloves of minced garlic. That should be enough. And we're going to cook this in here for about a minute. I'm going to mix it around to make sure that it's mixed in well with the onions. And then, after it's been about a minute, which it hasn't been yet, you're going to add your ground lamb. Now you can use ground lamb or you can use ground beef. The difference between the two, as far as the recipe goes, is that if you use ground beef, it becomes a cottage pie. If you use ground lamb, it is a shepherd's pie. And really the reasoning for that, I think, is because lamb it needs a shepherd to tend, so it's a shepherd's pie. People who have cows live in cottages, I don't know. But that's just how it is, and we just kind of accept it. So, alright, it's been about a minute. And my rutabagas are done. I did those in the Instant Pot. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my lamb in there. That is way louder than I was expecting.
I went there.
Don't worry, it's just blowing off a little steam. Anyway. So while the rutabagas are releasing the steam and pressure from being in there, we're going to smush up our ground lamb and cook this for approximately 10 minutes until it's no longer pink. Here we go. So this is a lot. This is going to take a bit to do. Normally you would be doing this with a single pound of lamb or ground beef, but like I said, we're having a small party, so I want to make sure that everybody is fed because that's like my thing. I'm like a Jewish mother without being either of those two things. Have you eaten yet? Did you eat? How about if you eat? Here, have some food. It's Italian grandmother, same thing. Again, neither of those things. But you know, hey. Okay, I'm actually going to turn the heat up a little bit here to help this process along. And when we get the ground beef and such done, then we'll take a look at the rutabagas and how to do rutabaga, because honestly, that's one of my favorite parts of this particular recipe is the rutabaga topping. It's so good. I'm not a huge fan of potatoes to begin with, and the fact that potatoes are pretty much empty calories, it's a lot of sugar, a lot of starch and such, and they don't really provide much nutritional value. I much prefer rutabagas, or turnips, both of which have higher nutritional content. Turnip is slightly more healthy, but at the same time, rutabagas are just delicious, and they smell really good when they're cooking. They smell very sweet, even though they don't really have an extremely high sugar content. They're just, tasty. So I will come back in a few minutes once my beef is a bit less pink and a bit more browned, and then we're going to add our spices, our coconut aminos, and our balsamic vinegar, and really get things going on here. Alright, so our meat is browned. It's no longer pink, which is what we wanted. Just so you know, lamb is fatty, so you're going to have a lot of extra grease and such, and that's fine. So now we're going to add 4 teaspoons of coconut aminos. And you can also use a gluten-free soy sauce if you would prefer. But I happen to like coconut aminos, so I'm just going to use coconut aminos. Oh, look at that. I just dripped stuff everywhere. And then we're also going to add 4 teaspoons of balsamic vinegar. And give this all a good stir here in just a moment. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so we're going to stir this all around, get everything mixed together. Okay. Now we're going to add some salt and pepper to taste. And then we're going to remove this from the heat and we're going to add our frozen vegetables. And when I say remove this from the heat, I'm just going to turn it off for videoing purposes. And show you what to do. And then I'll remove it from the heat when I go to reframe everything for the next bit. So that is our salt and pepper added. Again, you want to mix that around so that you don't have like pockets of salt. Okay. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat. And we're going to add our peas and carrots. So I have 2 bags just in case that's what I need. In the original recipe, it is 1 pound of ground beef, 1 cup of frozen peas, which is optional, and 1 cup of diced carrots, which you would dice yourself, but I have trouble with my hands, and I prefer to use pre-cut anything, any chance I get. Actually, the 1 bag of frozen peas and carrots looks like it's going to be plenty. So you just kind of want to mix that around, mix it in. And this is really kind of what you're looking for as far as your ratio of meat to vegetables. So keep that in mind when you are doing yours. Okay, I'm going to move this off heat. And I will be back in a few minutes to show you how to do the rutabaga. Alright, it's time to do our rutabagas. So I pressure cooked my rutabagas, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of finely ground sea salt. Because remember, I am making a double batch of this. There's 1 teaspoon. And 2 teaspoons. Okay, so you want to add your sea salt and your pepper, which is to taste. I like pepper, so we're going to add a lot of pepper. That's probably enough pepper. And then to this, you are also going to add your milk and your heavy cream and your butter. Since I'm doing a double batch, I'm using a cup of heavy cream. There we go. And I see a cat here. That's awesome. There we go. And then again, double batch, so an entire stick or a half a cup of butter. Hello, house guest Ander.
Hello there. All packed up and ready to go.
Okay. Ooh. And throw that there. So, now the fun part. You're going to take an immersion blender.
I love those things.
And you're going to get stuff all over you because that's fantastic. You're going to use the immersion blender to mash and blend your rutabagas with everything, including the butter. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this, and then I'll come back, because this is going to take a bit, and it's really loud and kind of annoying. Okay, I'm back. You want to get this so that you get most of your large chunks out, and you want to process it so that it's mostly smooth. It's as smooth as you can get it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your eggs. You need 2 for a regular batch, 4 for a double batch, and you're going to put your egg yolks, just the yolks, into your rutabagas here, and you're going to process all of this again. If you don't have a stick blender, you can obviously use a regular blender. I just find regular blenders more difficult to clean. So that's going to do it for the blending. Now what we're going to do is reframe everything in just a moment. Okay, so I didn't really do all that much reframing. I just cleaned up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take everything that's in this pot here and put it into this pan here. Or if I need to put it into 2 pans, I'll do that too. But we're going to put at least most of it into this container, and then we're going to add the rutabaga on top, and I'll show you how to do that. Our oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and it's been ready for us, so we're going to go ahead and get this party started. Oh, this is heavier than I thought. So you put your meat and veggies into your casserole and dish. Spread it evenly about. So this should actually all fit in here. I'm gonna take a chance that it will. There we go. And we're gonna spread this out so that it's nice and smooth and flat, just like that. Now, the really fun part. We're going to take our rutabaga and we're going to put it on top of our pie here, our casserole pie. I might have a little bit too much on the mashed rutabaga, so I'm trying to take it easy on how much I put on here so that I can see how much more I need, if I need any more, how everything's working out. But normally you can just dump your entire batch of mashed rutabaga right on top. I can put a little bit more on there. Just put it all in there, I guess. So you're going to put this into a 400 degree oven to bake for approximately 45 minutes. And then, oh no, I'm sorry, it's going to be 30 minutes. And then you're going to let it sit before you serve it, 10 to 15 minutes. I am also going to add a baking sheet under this. I learned from the last time I made this that the fat does like to bubble out, and that does like to make my oven smoke, and that does like to set off smoke alarms, which are very distressing. All right, so here is our lovely shepherd's pie. Go ahead and stick that in the oven, along with baking sheet. Grab that out first. Okay. And then we'll put this in the oven for 30 minutes. And we'll be back when it's done. Alexa says we're done, so let's go ahead and see. Alrighty, it's bubbling away. It's gonna be heavy. Alright, yep, it is heavy. But it looks beautiful. And very glad for the pan, because grease right there in the corner. Alrighty. Let me get this up there, and let me get the oven off. So, that's shepherd's pie with rutabaga topping. If you like what you see today, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment. If you didn't like what you see, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button, but leave me a comment. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when my videos are coming out. And also, do me a favor and head over to Patreon, www.patreon.com/KWOS, and check out my stuff over there and see if there's anything that might interest you. We will see you next time.